Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me, and welcome to a special review for the collaboration I don't think anyone saw coming, Aerosmith and Yungblud. One more time, a brand new EP of music. As I said, this is a collaborative effort between the two. 13 years though since new music from Aerosmith. This was just released on November 21st of 2025. I'm going to do a full review, breakdown, unboxing, everything about this here. We'll get into it in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel, haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this, where we're talking about the brand new Aerosmith and Yungblud collaborative EP one more time. So, as I mentioned, this is between the two, and we've got one of the most classic American rock bands of all time, Aerosmith, matching up with a much younger, up and coming artist who's making a lot of waves, Yungblud. Now, Aerosmith formed way back in 1970, 55 years ago. They had an entire career already. I mean, they had their initial peak in the 1970s. They nearly sputtered out at the end of the 70s, very early 80s, before making a huge return in the mid to late 80s. And then in the last 2 decades, they've been winding things down before vocal problems unfortunately caused them to retire in 2024. So how does a band that has already done it all, hung it up, decide to make a return? And in making that return, it's a collaborative effort with a young new artist like Yungblud. And so Yungblud is an English 28-year-old alternative rock singer, much more akin to like Goo Goo Dolls kind of alternative rock. So there's a very heavy pop side to what it is that he does, which, in reality, Aerosmith is really no stranger to, certainly with their late 80s and early 2000s material, like the song Jaded that came off of Just Push Play in 2001. And so Yungblud invited Steven Tyler, Joe Perry to collaborate on a song for his new album, which came out in 2025, and it turned out to be the song Hello Heaven Hello. So there's another song out there floating around besides what's here on this EP. And the sessions went so well that they wrote an entire EP worth of music, and we're getting this. So 5 songs total on here, 4 originals, and 1 new mix of the song Back in the Saddle, the classic track. So this EP clocks in at 20 minutes, and truly a collaborative effort. Steven Tyler, Joe Perry co-wrote all of the material with Yungblud, and a few people from his entourage. Songs sound very much in the vein of the late 90s and early 2000s era material, meaning it definitely has a modern feel, a bit overproduced in my opinion, kind of burying everything a little bit in the mix. It's you lose the individualness of the instrumentation. So while we don't get that classic 70s Aerosmith sound, we are getting Aerosmith. And again, it is a collaborative effort, and that is, where things are today on it. So my comments on it are not to say that it's bad. It's modern, but I think that it's good if you're open to it, you're open to the idea, and recognize that this is a collaborative effort. It is not just an Aerosmith EP on it. I think it's actually some pretty good stuff that's on here. I found that I really like each song on here. They each very much sound in Aerosmith style, so there's nothing that is way off from it that doesn't sound like it belongs. Not just merely being, Steven's vocals added to, say, a Yungblud song, which was a little bit of what I was concerned about when I originally heard that this collaboration was happening, is that it would not feel like Aerosmith, that it would sound more like Yungblud. And while Yungblud does actually sound rock, and his vocal style sounds somewhat like Steven's vocal style, they actually a great pairing together. Joe Perry does a great job of applying his signature sound, revving up the guitar in different spots around it, and keeps reminding you that this in fact is fully an Aerosmith collaboration. We all get the other members too of Aerosmith on here. Brad Whitford is there on guitar, Tom Hamilton on bass, even Joey Kramer is here on drums for the song Back in the Saddle. Taking drums though for the other four songs on here because Joey has been or remained a member in name, but has not played with them in quite some time. So taking the drums for the other four songs is Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses, Velvet Revolver, The Cult. And then there's a lot of other musicians on here as well. And I think those are people from Yungblud's entourage, people that he co-writes or plays with and things. So again, truly collaborative. And at the same time, it does leave up for debate a little bit about who plays exactly what and how much is played by, say, that person, as opposed to it being just Aerosmith with Yungblud joining. There's parties from both sides coming in to create what this is, which I think equally to say then, if you are a Yungblud fan, you're going to love this the same way that I think Aerosmith fans are going to love this, even with Yungblud's collaboration on it, because up until getting this and doing this review for you guys, I didn't even know who he was, and kind of waited until I heard this and sort of said, you know, I'm okay with this here, and looked into it and found out a little bit more about him. But this is definitely a collaborative project. You know, you'd expect some differences from Aerosmith, and that's what we get here. There's influences from both sides affecting each person on it. But I think what everybody really wants to know, at least what the first question, the first bell that went off in my head when I heard about this thing was, how is Steven gonna sound after his very public vocal issues that led to the canceling and essentially retiring of Aerosmith? And Steven, while he doesn't sound like he did 13 years ago with their last album, Music from Another Dimension, and so let's not even go all the way back and say that he doesn't sound like the 1970s, because he's never gonna sound like that, but he doesn't sound like he did then. And you've got to listen a little bit to really hear him on there. But you got to remember too that he's 77, and in that time, 13 years since the last album, there's been a lot of aging. So how much of this is from the vocal issues? How much of this is repair that might have been done? Or how much of this is just age? We're never going to really know, but he does sound like himself. At no time does Steven not. So if you know the parts of Aerosmith and Steven Tyler's singing, where he sang in the normal range of things, he had a great voice, and that's what this is here. There's still glimmers of past glories in here where you hear it and you go, oh yeah, there's, you know, Steven singing on this thing. But I'm really enjoying having him back, and I just, you know, have to remind myself that he's 77, and so we're not going to get that classic sounding guy from the 1970s, but I'm okay with that. All right, so I want to talk about the songs on here. We don't have many, so we're going to actually run through each one instead of just a selection from. Track 1, My Only Angel. Steven starts this one out. He sings the first verse on it before Yungblud comes in singing on the second verse. And that was my big thing, that I really wanted to know who sang what on here. Unfortunately, that information is not in the booklet, but if you give it a real listen, you'll be able to pick up on this. This was the first single that was released from it. It opens with some harmonizing on it, but very quickly falls into a classic Aerosmith sounding riff and turns into a fantastic mid-pace rocker. A great one to kick off with. Great one to be the first single, in my opinion. Track 2, Problems. Yungblud starts this one off singing the first verse before Steven comes in for the second verse. It's another mid-pace rocker that kicks in a bit more during the course on it, and typically right in the wheelhouse, lyrically at least, for what Aerosmith would sing about. And then musically, this might be maybe a little bit more akin to a Yungblud song. I went and checked out some of his material. But again, Joe Perry sprinkles around some classic guitar riffs on this, revving it up, reminding you that, in fact, Aerosmith is playing the music on it. So there's no song on this that we don't get that sort of stuff. But it is that reason that I say that it is truly collaborative, because you really do hear both sides in all of these songs. Track number 3, Wild Woman. This one here is treated more like a duet where we get both Steven and Yungblud trading off vocal lines every couple lines in here. This one's got a bit more of a groove to it, a little bit of a funky vibe almost. Kind of resonates a bit more with me in terms of an underlying element that you would expect from Aerosmith. You know, there's always that kind of one song like Pink that was a little left field, but it also very much fit in terms of Aerosmith style. That's kind of what this is here. Track 4, 1,000 Days. Yungblud starts this one off singing the first verse before Steven comes in. Very typical Aerosmith 90s era ballad signing stuff, like off of the Get a Grip album. Perhaps my favorite track on the album, even Yungblud on this one, taking lead to start. Very much still has this thing feeling like a classic Aerosmith sounding song. And Yungblud, if you haven't heard him, does sing in a very rock style and has some of those flourishes that Steven Tyler has. So it is very fitting actually that the two partnered up for this collaborative effort. And the last track being Back in the Saddle 2025 mix. Now, this is not a re-recording. This is a new mix. So it has not been updated in that regard, just the sound aspect of it. And it's, got all the same groove as the original. It definitely modernized with the way that it has been remixed. And part of this here is interesting in hearing Steven's original power and vocal style to the song after hearing the 4 songs before this one on here, where we then get Youngblood's vocals added into it. So Steven's vocals are not re-recorded. I think the only thing done to this is the addition of Youngblood's vocals within a remix musically on the thing. Otherwise, all the music is the original stuff. This release is out by Columbia being the label that originally had that song by Aerosmith, so they can certainly do that. And I think it's a great way to close out this album, remind us of the classicness of Aerosmith. And, you know, if the two are going to do a cover song, I'm glad it was an Aerosmith song at that. So let's take a look at this. I gotta say, I mean, I get the cover. The wings, the skull, maybe it's a combination of Yungblud, Aerosmith coming together, but the fact that it doesn't have their logos really bums me out. When I flip this over though, we get the Aerosmith and the Yungblud logo, which I think would have been great if we had seen the winged skull in the middle of it for that. And I don't really understand what it is about today where logos are oftentimes left off of the covers of albums, but you go back 10, 20 years, that never would have been the case, but they seem to do it a lot these days. So a little bit disappointed in terms of the overall album cover, but at least we do get the classicness of the logo and stuff like that. It is a jewel case, which makes me very happy. Unfortunately though, on the spine, everything is upside down. So while it kind of works when it's like this, this is the only way that it's gonna be correct. And I really hate it when they have that and make that happen. You guys saw the backside track listing down the middle there. We open it up, we get this on the inside here, pop out the CD so you can see what's under it, which is just their logos or names, again with the title, and pull out. You get a little bit of a booklet here. We get the hype sticker, which I always like to cut out and keep inside. And then this opens up nicely. You get a kind of a mini poster of the cover, but again, I wish the logos and things had been there. And then you get lyrics and who performs what and that kind of stuff. But it's not really broken down as to who takes first vocal, second vocal, and things like that. And I really wish they had done it. I think it would have been just one step more on this as to letting us know what's going on with it. But all in all, I think a very cool, packaging and everything. So bottom line, I totally didn't see this coming. I don't know if anyone saw this coming here. And it might not have been what I would have picked for Aerosmith to do, making a return like this with a collaboration, but it does sound genuine. It sounds real. I don't think it's a publicity stunt or money or cash grab from either one of the artists. Certainly Aerosmith did not need to do this. They did not need to put out new music at this point. They could just stick to doing best ofs, compilations, live albums, whatever they want to do. So I do think it's great that they are making this what I feel is a legitimate return for something that they wanted to do, that they were inspired to do. And I think Steven, sounding the way that he sounds on here is great. He's 77. He's overcoming vocal issues. He's getting back at it. All of that stuff, very good. And, let's enjoy this for what it is. I think it's a nice cherry on the top for Aerosmith, an amazing career that they have. It's a nice little venture that Yungblud gets to do and maybe a boost to his career as well along the way. Of course, I'm always going to hold out hope that we get a full-on brand new album from Aerosmith, maybe a companion EP to this somewhere down the road, but for the meantime, at least, Aerosmith is definitely back in the saddle. And for me, at least, I'm thanking my lucky stars. All right, so there you go. That is my review of the brand new Aerosmith and Yungblud One More Time collaborative EP. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you checked it out, you've listened to it, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of this musically, collaboratively, of Steven's vocals. Are you on board too? Do you get it? He's 77, but he's doing one last hurrah, 55 years on. I think it's all great stuff and I welcome it. And, let's hope that this all leads to much, much more from Aerosmith and maybe even Yungblud.